For 81 years, humanity has gathered under one roof, one organization created from the ashes of war, one universal institution entrusted with a historic promise: peace, justice, human dignity, development, international cooperation. But after 8 decades, one question demands an honest answer. In 1945, the United Nations was born with a profound ambition: to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in human rights, to establish conditions under which justice and respect for international obligations could flourish, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. 81 years later, the world has changed, but the fundamental aspirations of humanity have not. Every year, a new president of the General Assembly assumes office, and again, the world hears a familiar promise. But today, trust remains one of the greatest deficits facing international institutions and the international system itself.
Trust cannot simply be proclaimed. Trust must be earned through justice, fairness, transparency, and accountability, meaningful representation, and measurable results. Justice is the fabric of humanity.
In 2013, as the world prepared to move beyond the Millennium Development Goals, the United Nations High-Level Panel on the Post-2015 Development Agenda presented a transformative vision. The panel, co-chaired by David Cameron, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, called for a partnership capable of putting people and the planet at the center of development.
That principle became central to our own doctrine at Aasgon and GSEF. But partnership should never have been treated simply as the final goal. Partnership should have been the operating system of all 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
In 2015, the world adopted 17 Sustainable Development Goals, a universal promise to end poverty and hunger, protect the planet, promote prosperity, leave no one behind. But the clock is moving. 4 years remain. The United Nations' latest assessment tells a sobering story. Among assessed targets, only 18% are currently on track. Nearly half are showing insufficient progress, and 18% have regressed from their 2015 baseline. More than 88% of humanity lives in the global south. It is home to the majority of the world's young people, the majority of the world's farmers, enormous natural resources, growing cities, universities, entrepreneurs, scientists, engineers, and extraordinary human potential.
Yet the people of the Global South remain disproportionately constrained by decisions made within a global architecture they did not design. Global finance determines who can invest, who can borrow, who can build, who can recover from crisis, who can respond to climate change, and who is forced to wait.
The Global South is not asking for charity. It is asking for justice, fairness, voice, representation, and an equal opportunity to participate in shaping the international system.
Africa is home to more than 1.4 billion people, 54 nations, a continent rich in resources, cultures, knowledge, and human potential. Yet Africa's influence over many of the institutions that shape global political and economic decisions remains far below what its population and contribution to humanity would suggest.
Africa cannot remain a continent that is spoken about, spoken for, and frequently spoken down to, while having insufficient influence over the institutions and decisions that determine its future. Africa does not need another promise that its voice will be heard. Africa needs institutional arrangements that guarantee that its voice will count.
In 2026, the world enters another historic moment. The United Nations is selecting its next Secretary General. Civil society has been invited to engage with the candidates. The question is, what kind of UN should the next Secretary General lead?
Aasgon and GSEF believe that the next Secretary General must confront the structural questions. How do we restore trust? How do we strengthen justice? How do we reform global finance? How do we give the Global South meaningful voice? How do we eliminate institutional duplication? How do we improve resource management? How do we accelerate implementation? How do we transform partnership into delivery? Aasgon and GSEF are calling for a comprehensive institutional and performance audit of the UN system.
We need an honest institutional audit, not an audit designed to weaken the United Nations, but one designed to strengthen it. The United Nations has an enormous responsibility, but enormous responsibility requires equally strong implementation structures.
But Aasgon and GSEF are not only asking questions, they are building a response. A new institutional architecture designed to connect the knowledge, skills, institutions, businesses, and people of the Global South. The framework currently comprises 8 established institutional ecosystems: Global South Universities Association, Universities and Higher Education; G-SCRIPS-D, Global South Center for Research, Innovation, Policy, Technology, and Sustainable Development; Research, Innovation, Policy, and Technology; GOSCCA, Global South Chambers of Commerce, Industries, Mines, and Agriculture; Economic and Industrial Development; GSEA, Global South Engineers Association, Professional Engineering Expertise; GSSEA, Global South Solar Energy Association, Renewable and Solar Energy; GSMA, Global South Media Association, Media and Development Communication; GSDF, Global South Diaspora Foundation, Diaspora, Investment and Social Development. And alongside the 8 ecosystems, CAPS mobilizes the experience and professional knowledge of senior citizens as a development resource. In October 2026, the architecture will take another significant step. At the first Global South Ministers, Farmers, Academia, and Chambers of Commerce Summit, Awards, and Expo in Mumbai, 2 new institutional ecosystems will be launched. Together, these additions will bring the core GSIDF architecture to 10 institutional ecosystems.
Women farmers and young people must not simply be beneficiaries of development. They must be organized, represented, and empowered as leaders and partners in development.
To guide this emerging architecture, the Global South Sustainable Development Council was established at the House of Lords in the United Kingdom during the 2025 Mandela Day commemoration. With distinguished founding patrons, including the President of Namibia, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps in the United Kingdom, the Council provides strategic guidance and support to Aasgon and GSF in the progressive coordination and delivery of the GSIDF. The GSIDF is not intended to replace the United Nations, nor is it intended to compete with existing multilateral institutions.
We are not proposing that civil society replace the United Nations. We are proposing that the United Nations work with the enormous implementation capacity that already exists across the Global South.
The future of development cannot be built by governments alone, nor by international organizations alone, nor by business alone, nor by civil society alone. It must be built through partnership. A partnership where every sector contributes. A partnership where knowledge becomes action, where finance becomes investment, where innovation becomes implementation, where commitments become results. On 24 October 2026, the United Nations will turn 81. 81 years of resolutions, 81 years of diplomacy, 81 years of peace building, 81 years of humanitarian action, 81 years of hope. But the next chapter must be about delivery.
The 81st anniversary of the United Nations should not simply be another anniversary. It should be a turning point. From promises of trust to structures of trust. From declarations of partnership to genuine partnership. From unequal representation to meaningful voice. From commitments to implementation. Justice is the fabric of humanity. The Global South is not asking to be heard as a favor. It is asking to participate as an equal partner in shaping the future of humanity.
The world does not lack ideas. It does not lack capable people. It does not lack institutions. What the world needs is the courage to connect them, the courage to reform what no longer works, the courage to invest in implementation, and the courage to build a global partnership worthy of humanity. The future of the United Nations must not be built by the privileged few speaking for the many. It must be built by humanity, speaking, participating, and acting together.